Hi everybody, Matt Bisogno here again with another thrilling instalment of Geegeez Gold TV. First things first, apologies for a slightly more raucous voice this evening. I'm struggling with the lurgy, manfully soldiering on in the face of adversity. It's the only way. Enough of my woes and on with the show. And in tonight's programme, I'd like to look at something called report angles. Now, this is a very powerful feature of Geegeez Gold, and it's one that perhaps a number of you are either not using to its full potential or simply not using at all. And I hope in the coming minutes to show you some of its power and why and how you might be able to deploy it for yourself. In this shot here, in this screenshot, you can see a horse called Baby Zeus. Just make that a little bit bigger. A horse that had never run before in an Irish maiden, and on the face of it, a big task to overcome a strong odds-on favourite from the Aidan O'Brien yard. But on my race card, and indeed on certainly one Twitter follower's race card as well, this horse, Baby Zeus, number 3, advertised its claims with a number in the red digit icon. Now, if I hover over that, you see it says angles, and if I then click on the 4 means there are 4 angles that this matches. And in this case, they're all sort of somewhat correlated, or they'd be related contingencies in bookmaker terms. But basically, this trainer, Ger Lyons, has a very good record with his 2-year-olds on their first start, both in the last year, in the last 2 years, and in the last 5 years. And you can see this sea of black data means that he's been profitable to follow. Actual over expected numbers, very impressive. Impact value, really impressive again. So this guy is a 14-to-1 chance, and it kind of advertises himself as at least worth a second glance. Obviously, because it's always the way with such examples, this lad went on to win his race, and he did it at a Betfair SP of 34, which is 33-to-1. So that was a remarkable and somewhat timely example of the power of report angles. So that's that. Now let's step back a bit and talk about what exactly report angles are. Report angles are simply a digest. So these days here on Geegeez, we have a raft of reports in our reporting suite, and to go through each one every day can be time consuming, and really the notion of doing that sort of 13 or 15 times means you may not even look at them at all. And that would be a sad loss in terms of the amount of information that they can feed you in a contextual way. So the key thing about this horse here, or indeed any other horse, is that these snippets, these very interesting insights, are presented to you right in the race card that you're looking at. So you haven't got to go shuffling away into a report to find these. Now I'll just quickly pull up the 2-year-old first start report, and you'll see that this the Ger Lyons line is here, this black line here. If I just sort it by AE, and here come to the top, and you can see you had these 2 horses. Don't know how the other one got on. It would be too much to ask for them both to win. Let's have a quick look. We'll do that later, never mind. Anyway, so these are the data that you'd have to wade through individually in each of the races to find the material elements that you were looking for. But report angles comes to the rescue, and the idea of it is that you spend a little bit of time in the first instance setting it up excuse me, and then once it's set up, thereafter everything happens magically. So let's go to the reports drop down, and we've got to go towards the bottom to where it says My Report Angles, and if you hover over that, you'll see on the left hand side here a sub menu item, My Report Angles Settings. So this is the first place we're going to go. So it's from the Reports menu, My Report Angles Settings. Click on that and you'll come to a screen, a weird and wonderful screen. Let me just what am I going to do? Let's resize the window a little bit to make this fit a bit better if I can. Let's try that. Okay, so we've got a lot of boxes here, and it can be quite overwhelming to begin with, but as with everything, if you break it down into its constituent elements, it's a lot less overwhelming, even if there is quite a bit of work to be done. Importantly, because we recognize the scale of this initial setup operation, we've got some on-off buttons for all reports, and we've got on-off buttons for individual reports as well. As well as that, we've got defaults. So if you're not really sure which report data you want or how to set up these parameters, now these parameters, in this case jockey statistics, these align directly to the same parameters at the top of any report. So these boxes here are the same as these boxes here. Okay, so far so good. Right, so what are we going to do? The first thing we can do, if you just want to get some of this data feeding into your race cards when you're looking at the racing, simply reset all defaults, and then it's probably going to take a little minute to do that. It says saved, and it's turned them all off. You can turn them all on just by clicking this all on button here. So if I just click that, saving, this will take some time. And you can see that it's that they're all checked now, and if we go to TJ Combo for instance, they're all checked on there as well. So that's a quick way to set it up. Just click the reset all defaults and then click the all on button. If for instance you turned them all on but you weren't actually interested in the you weren't interested in the jockey stats report, so you go to jockey stats over here, see that's highlighted, and then you could just click the off button here, and that just unchecks all of these. You can uncheck them manually if you only want some of them or whatever, so you can set it up exactly how you like it. So that's that. So now I will have all of these reports except for jockey stats. So again, if I go to trainer stats, you see it's checked, TJ Combo is checked, all the other ones are checked, the jockey stats is not, as I set it up. Okay, so what can we do with this now? Well, the way to set up report angles very much depends on you, and I guess there are broadly two types of people in terms of consuming report data. There are those who are looking for a horse on the report to bet almost blindly, for this horse to advertise its credentials on the basis of its appearance on a report, and that's enough to justify considering having a bet. Now if that's you, then you probably want to set the parameters on this report angle setting more stringently. So you'd want to have a higher win strike rate, for instance. You'd want to have more runs or wins in the sample size. So you want to have you'd want to have more confidence in the selection, or in the report output, and you'd want to have less report output. It's no good having 200 report angles flagged if you want to use these things to have a bet, unless you're comfortable backing 150 horses a day, which most people are not. So that's one way. You set the bar, you set the thresholds quite high and in so doing you get much less data into your race cards. And also the other thing that I should have shown you is this link. So I took you over here, but if I click on this my report angles link here, that will open up all of my report angles in a single potentially quite long report, and you can see those data are here. So this clearly is not set up for the person who wants half a dozen or a dozen rows of information from which to consider having a bet. This is set up for somebody who wants to know in any given race what the interesting under the radar angles might be, and that's the way I use it. So I might end up landing on a horse as a consequence of this, but more likely it would support a wagering decision that I'd made on the basis of a broader consideration of a race, including the overall form profile of a horse, assuming it's a handicap where they've got some form, trainer form, the pace in the race, any draw considerations to be aware of, and so on. So I'd use it in concert with a lot of the other data that you find within the race cards. But as I say, some people would just have very selective parameters which would produce only a small amount of data into this report, from which they could then consider each line on the report as a potential bet. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so what I'm going to do, seeing as this is set up as it is, I think that's fine just to illustrate the kind of the more information grist to the mill. And that particular horse that we looked at in the, I think it was a 1755 Baby Zeus, is a perfect way to illustrate the fact that if I was looking at this race, and I mean, typically, personally, I wouldn't be looking to try and get this favourite beaten, but unless I was doing a play spot or whatever. And if I was looking for one to put in with the favourite, I'd probably do favourite, number 1, and potentially number 3. So that in that case, I've got 2 lines on the favourite, because I've done unnamed favourite and also its race card number. So it would be 3 selections in the race, 2 of which are on the same horse, if you see what I mean. And that's a way also to weight a win or place bet if you're doing those kind of wagers. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, here in the card we've got these numbers, and Aidan O'Brien has one here for Wayne Lorden trainer jockey combo in the last 14 days. That wouldn't be something that typically I'd look at. It's just, very fickle fashion, short-term trainer jockey form. If it was trainer jockey 5 year, I'd be much more interested in that. We've looked at this guy, and then we've got Jessica Harrington here with, again, trainer jockey short-term stuff. It's not irrelevant, and in fact these guys had a winner a couple of races earlier, I think. Poor old Frankie gone over there, or maybe a race later. Frankie had gone over there, and I think this Tauran Shaman with 3, the trainer snippet's first start on there, and trainer jockey, this was a winner as well. So again, you can see that there are very few with a line on the report, and one of them's 1 here again. So it's kind of like that's adding a little bit of extra support to what I'm trying to say here. Just one other thing on this, actually. If you in a race like this is 13 runners, and to go through all of these and click on them individually is a bit of a pain. So as with all of the icons, really, if you click on in the menu row, if you click on, for instance, the horse form icon, it will open the form for all the runners in the race, nice and quick and easy, and then clicking it again closes it all up. The same with the red numbers. We'll talk about the blue numbers another day, don't worry about those for now. But with the red numbers, if we click on the red question mark here, if there is a report angle to be considered, it will open, and you can see in this case the top 3, they're all zeros, nothing happens. And then this one here, we've got something, this one here, we've got something, this one here. So we've only got 3 there, but they open simultaneously just by clicking this button here and clicking it again. Of course, gets rid of them. So that's nice and neat and tidy. It's a really useful feature, and I strongly encourage you to look at it if you're not already. The other way to do this, as I've said, is to essentially switch everything off like that, and then to go to cherry pick the reports that might be of interest to you. So let's say, because it's convenient, trainer first, 2-year-old, 2 year, I want at least 20 runs. I want a 15% win rate, but I want a very high impact value of at least 1.5. That means it's at least 1.5 times more likely than than the general population for this trainer to win first time with his 2-year-olds. So I'm going to do that, and then I save the settings here at the bottom. Tells me it's saved, and I can now go to my report angles report, and I should have just a small handful of lines. So I pressed the wrong button there, haven't I? There you go, trying to multitask. You see, I'm just going to press this one here, and you can see we've just got these 2 J Alliance runners, including Baby's Use. So that's how. That obviously is uber selective, because I've just I've literally just chosen one sub report of the trainer 2-year-old first start. But then I could go in and I could add in, let's say, TJ combo course 5 years, one I like. I could put a high IV on there, say handicaps only, save those settings. And then I could go and look at my report angles again. I just click refresh, which is sort of out of, if I click refresh up here, and you can see I've got some TJ combo stuff here now, and I can order this by time, or by report type, and so on. So it's all very highly configurable to your tastes. And obviously, if I click on a given row in the report, it opens up the card for that particular race. And I've done this one deliberately selectively again, because we've got in this race we've just got this one angle, trainer jockey course 5 year, the marvellous Skelton brothers, and we can see that of course was a winner, which made all and won by half the track. So clearly that was cherry picked conveniently for this video, but I hope you can see the power and the ability that you have to make this a tool that is your tool. And we kind of deliberately put my report angles here, because nobody else, unless you're using the defaults, nobody else is going to have the same settings as you. You can find edges for yourself that not even people with the same access to the same tools are finding, because they're using them in a different way. And I think that's a super powerful weapon to have in your armory. I don't intend to labour this anymore, but I hope I've given you enough inspiration to check out the My Report angles. Just to remind you, start off, go to, from the reports menu, go down to My Report angles, and just don't click anything, just go across to the settings one and then click on that one, and it'll bring up this page. You can select all on or off, or you can do it more individually tailored. And don't forget to save the things down at the bottom, and then when you go to your report, My Report angles, you will see just those elements that you're interested in that satisfy the data, the parameters that you input in these boxes here. So I love report angles. It's something that is a fundamental part of my daily betting now. I can't imagine not having these little snippets to hand, and I think if you start using this very quickly, it will become something that you can't be without as well. So I hope that's been interesting to you. I hope you found some value in it, and I'll sign off now. This is Matt Bisogno and his sore throat saying thank you very much for watching and bearing with my voice, and bye for now.